ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Chamber of the Wraith. My name is Brian, and today it is time to bring the heat with Jax. Jaximum, Maximum, Saximum Briggs. I'm sorry for that. I did that for the Soulful trailer, which, by the way, was probably one of my favorite videos I've ever done this year. But all the same, who's next? Did I do Cassie Cage? I feel like I did Cassie Cage. Pardon, I'm just going to have a very quick look at my playlist just to see who I did. I'm going to cut this bit too, friendly reminder. Yes, I did Cassie Cage, so I'm going to do Jackie Briggs next, because then it kind of completes the whole circle once we get to Johnny Cage. And I'm gonna beat up Spawn Briggs because this is still the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen. It's still the dumbest thing ever, even though I love it. Hit with a size 12 is the name of his junk kick? Weird. Alright. Well, at least we know what Jax's shoe size is. It's a size 12. Anyway, Power Punch is a high launching attack, and you can see that Jax's fists are beginning to turn orange. We'll talk about that later. But this is just a high. It's a quick high. Nothing to write home about. I forgot to set up frame data like a doof. Hold on a second. And I forgot to make a block. And then, yeah, we'll do easy crushing blows just because. So, wallop. I meant to say auto. Thank you. So, this just knocks down. It's minus 12 on hit, and this is a high, so you can just duck. And on whiff, it's minus 27, effectively. So, you can duck this, whiff it, and then force him to eat an uppercut. But if he blocks it, he's also minus, so you can take full advantage of this situation. Head Slammer is a fairly fast overhead at 16 frames, but it can be held down. And if I hold it all the way, I get a crushing blow. And that crushing blow... Hold on a minute. Oh, that's interesting! So, there is a way... Oh wait, I forgot I have easy crushing blows on, so give me a minute. Okay, so it looks like, yeah, there's no way to kind of cheese it. I kind of fooled myself there because I forgot that I had easy crushing blows on by mistake. But, yeah, you hold it down, you get a crushing blow that launches. Not bad at all. And then you get 70, 90, and then it kind of bounces when it's fully charged. Although I don't think you really get anything off of it unless it's in the corner. Oops. Unless it's a crushing blow as well. Move him really quick. No, I would have to hit her with that in the corner in order to get anything. But on block, the uncharged version is minus 17. And it becomes neutral on block when it's fully charged. And it seems to become less unsafe the longer you charge it. But of course, it's much easier to react to a 34 frame overhead than it is to react to a 16 frame one. So there's caveats to that. Next is upper muscle, which is just his uppercut. It's a 10 frame uppercut with really good reach. And nothing to write home about. It's minus 11, but look at that pushback. They should be. You should theoretically be fine from it. Side strike is his down 3. It's minus 6 on block, but it's 8 frames, meaning that if the opponent is 8 frames or less, you can just very quickly steal your turn back with Jax. And at close range, stealing your turn as Jax can be a very dangerous thing. Next, we have Get Back, which is just a big boot. It's high, so it's duckable, and it knocks the opponent back. On block, it's neutral, and it has a little bit of pushback, so you're not punishing Jax for this thing. Unless you're ducking, because it's minus 26 on miss, so you can easily punish Jax for that if you duck. Boot Bash is also a 13 frame high, but it does slightly less damage, and is -6, so it's actually less safe on block. And on whiff, it's -31. So you'll probably never see boot bash outside of like a quick boot to get past the finishing sequence and move on to the next round. That is his sweep, which is kind of like Fujin's in that he's left standing, but he does lean back a little bit. So some shorter jabs will probably not touch him. But once he knocks you down, he's +23. And the sweep itself is -7, meaning that it is technically punishable, but because of how much pushback there is, this is basically safe. Next, we have Step Back, which is a 10-frame down 4 with about this range. There we go. Knocks the opponent back and is +14. But on block is -9. When it comes to flawless blocks, Power Punch is not affected. Hammer Slammer is now -17. Fully Charged is -5, meaning that you have a chance to punish this with a far-reaching Flawless Reversal. Uppercut is -21 on Flawless Block, so yikes. Side Strike is -6 still. Get Back is still 0. Boot Bash is still -6. Ankle Breaker is -12, and with a lot less pushback, so, you know, hella punishable now. Step Back is -9 now. Bless me. And, twice now. Oh my god. Next Mortal Kombat character should weaponize their sneeze. Anyway, and finally we have the short hop attacks, which I don't think are overly affected. At least in my memory, they don't seem to be all that heavily affected. First is Ground Smash. 13 frame overhead. Big wallop. -14 on hit. And half decent pushback on block. Next we have SF Stomp, which is 11 frames, but seems to trade range, at least a little bit of range, for being slightly quicker. So it won't hit from there. Let's see. So, let's see. Backdash, forward dash, backdash, that won't hit. But it does advance him as well, so slightly less range for more wallop. Now, unlike the Sonya Blade episode, I'm actually going to talk about the friggin' wake-up attacks. And I'm also going to talk about his forward throw, as there's a crushing blow attached. And that would also be a really good time for me to talk about... That would also be a really good time for me to talk about his heat-up mechanic off of this thing. But we'll talk about that later. Right now, we're going to talk about wake-ups. Ground Slam is basically a better version of Sonya's wake-up slam, because it actually advances a little bit and knocks the opponent back. It starts up in 11 frames, but it's not the fastest, but it's definitely not bad. Crushing Backhand is a decently reaching launcher, and it causes the hands to heat up a little bit. Real quick, I'm actually gonna edit Jackie's to block off of this, so you can see the block data. -8 for the ground slam, and -13 for the launcher. So theoretically punishable on ground slam, at least for most characters, and fairly punishable off of the launcher. Now let's talk about his forward throw. Yes, it crushing blows, but you're probably wondering how it crushing blows. Also, his back throw does not crushing blow, just as a reminder. But the forward throw might be one, but both these throws leave the opponent about the same distance. So what gives? How do I crushing blow here? Do I have to fail a throw tech? No. The crushing blow is all under Jax's control, because every time he heats up, usually after about 3 of these, I think. Yeah, after about 3 of these, when you hear the first sound cue, you gotta listen a little close here. That nyum means that he's charged. That second nyum means that he's fully charged. Now, at level 1 charge, his punches do 5% more damage. Nothing to write home about, but 5% is 5%. And then, now that we're at maxed out, his punches do 10% more damage. Even his throws do a little more damage. And notice how when I did the crushing blow, his hands immediately cooled down. That means that that is the crushing blow requirement. Jax has to have fully heated arms. So fully charged, go in, do 33% damage off of a single throw. But this does come with a nice advantage for the opponent. Remember, if Jax is fully heated up, there's a 90% chance he's going to go for the forward throw. Sure, his back throw is going to do 160 now, which is kind of absurd for a throw. But at least he's not getting 330 off of a single crushing blow. So, that is your advantage right there. If you are expecting him to forward throw, you can easily press the forward throw button. I believe it's 1 and 3 to break a forward throw in this game. And when you do that, you've broken free of the throw. You're only taking 40 damage instead of 320 and resetting the neutral so that you have a chance to beat Jax back and force his arms to cool down. Because this is a passive buff, which means it's gonna happen all the time. But if Jax is forced to wait and let his hands cool down, eventually they'll cool right back down past the levels. That second hiss means that he's not getting a damage buff anymore and he's back to normal. Basically has to reset his punches again. So that's the basics of that mechanic. Now let's talk about his strings. His universal strings, I should add, including one string that doesn't really count as a string. I'll have to double check on outranked just because I don't believe it reacts the same, but I'll have to double check just to be sure. Okay, so those are all of his natural strings. So, active duty comes off of an 8-frame high, and if you commit to the whole thing, he's -2. This knocks down and is a true overhead. However, if I were Jackie, and I see Jax going for this, there's a 24-frame gap there, right? I can at least trade. And potentially, I can at least trade with a low poke. Or a high jab. It doesn't look like it actually is a true gap per se, but the fact that I can, at the very least, get a gap in there, because this whole thing is, oh, that's why it's +1. So if he just stops there, he's +1, meaning he has plus frames, meaning you basically have to respect this. And then you can go for a down 1, which is 7 frames. The reason why I haven't talked about his down 1 is because of quick drill, but we'll get to that. And then if he commits to the full thing, and you are gonna duck to try and punish it, he gets the overhead, which does decent damage, and is +42. And remember, if he commits to the full thing, he's only -2. So, and right in your face, meaning that if you push any buttons, you could get thrown. And as a quick aside, for those of you who are watching who have more fight experience than I do and have actually fought me, yes, I am aware. I understand how frame data works. I just kind of turn into a maniac behind the controller when an actual fight's going, and I'm like, press all the buttons! Anyway, so, quick drill. Not a true combo string, as you saw there, because it didn't actually combo. However, you can use this in order to extend strings. Now I'm fully charged. And this one sequence involved 2 crushing blows and left you almost a third dead as Jackie breaks. This hurts a lot. But the thing is, again, it's not a true string. It does 20-30. So it's a 7-frame punish that, if you're not expecting the second hit, allows him to build up 2 hits worth, and then cancel further into it. But remember, none of this is real, because you could just straight up block the second hit there. And yes, you're -6, but the only character who could punish a -6 move in the entire game is Raijin Variation Raiden, and the only time he's going to have that is if his buff is up. So, Jax players, if you're playing Jax, and like to throw this out there because most people are falling for this, be careful with a good Raijin, because eventually they'll catch wind of this, and then just block this, get their charge, wait for it, boom! Frame perfect punish to knock you back. And you don't want to be at this range with Jax. You want to be in with Jax. Which reminds me, I should probably not tag outranked, even though there's a lot attached to that which we could talk about in the variation section. But Get in Line ends in a low. And this is going to be important because in at least one variation, in one competitive variation rather, he has an overhead attached to this. So this can become a mix. Right now, it's -20 with decent pushback, but -20 is easily enough to dash in and jab punish for a full combo still. So this is one of those things that you just gotta be, extremely mindful of how you position it and get it to work. This could be a good way to close it out in said competitive variation if the opponent's expecting the overhead, but you're not getting it that way. Won't back down, comes off of a mid, and similarly ends in a low. However, the full thing is -20 again, because it's the same ender. It's the same attack, it's just off of a different normal, so it looks slightly different. So as an example, there it is. And then here it is this way. See, it's exactly the same. So again, these 2 strings end similarly. The only thing is that the first part of Get in Line is -5 and comes off of a high, and the first part of Won't Back Down comes off of a 12-frame mid. Also, Standing 2 is 11 frames, so be mindful of that. Sleep Bitch slams the opponent on the ground, and is one of several throw-style attacks, but it's not a true throw. The first hit is -9. The second hit is -7, so that's the safest that he can be, and he's still theoretically punishable by some faster characters, like another Jax. Or, if he accidentally overcommits, he's -16, and at this range. There are overheads. Actually, Jax has an overhead that could theoretically punish this. So, that means that if you're a Jax player, only use this to end a combo, you know? Oh, one thing I should mention, turning easy crushing blows off for a second. I just want to do that to prove a point. So, that's not a crushing blow, right? But this is. So, Jax mains, be mindful of that. If the opponent is dumb enough or doesn't know how to anti-air, and lets you get hit by that, and gives you a jump 1 or a jump 2, just go for this, because look at this. I guess I can't land it, but watch this. Look at that, they just gave you full heat. I just wanted to bring that up because I totally forgot about this, and I kind of wanted to see if I could get this, but I don't think that works because it comes off of a low. An 18 frame low, might I add, so unless it's, I guess, frame perfect in the corner, maybe, but I don't know. Then just get out of here. Jax's highest damaging single string, because that's 111. This would have been the equivalent to 50. That's 112. That's 9650. Okay, so it's actually his second most damaging string, because I forgot Sleep Bitch does 150. Does 155. But this does 116, and at full heat, because remember, this buffs all punching moves, that's 123. That's not bad, but there's just one problem. Plus 46, but it knocks back really far. And here's another caveat. It's plus 9 on block. So you might think, wow, that's really good. And And it is. +9 is super plus. But the knee itself is +1 only. And it's mid-high. So you just have to crouch block, then let go of block to get... I don't even think it comes out on whiff. So I'll demonstrate this with Jackie real quick. As soon as I remember how to do this. There we go. Okay, so now he's primed and ready. And I'm Jackie Briggs. See? Okay, so watch this. Look at that. 25 frames of recovery. And I get the punish. And of course that wasn't even optimal. You Jackie mains would know that for sure. It's just, I did that just to show, yowza, that sucks. That is horrific. So, here you go. Now let's talk about universal special moves. Okay. So, I'll get rid of Gotcha Grab and then I'll make that work. So, Gotcha Grab, Jax's most iconic attack, is a quick gotcha whap. And of course, it's not that simple. There's a bunch of buttons you could press. Let's start with Pound Town. And of course, this is designed to be repeated over and over again. Look at that, 7 hits. So you get a really high damaging... Look at that, 31% and I'm fully heated up, right? But that's not all. Let's say I want to carry you to the corner while doing damage instead. That's where Gutbuster comes in. Let's see if I can actually get this. Okay, so I'll just demonstrate it now. You only get 2 of these per Gotcha Grab. So your damage isn't going to be as good as Pound Town. But look at the corner carry. And you're already in the corner, which is where you do not want to be with a grappler like Jax. Then there's Lay Down, which can also be repeated up to twice, and kind of bridges the gap in between Gutbuster and a maxed out Pound Town in terms of damage. Because if you get this twice, you get 80 damage instead of 9150, which I believe... Yeah, it's because that last hit gets a 5% damage boost. So it's 90. It's 90 without the buff, 60 without the buff, and unlike all the others, Lay Down is not affected by Spicy Fists until the end. Hold on, oh, that's interesting. So it looks like, at least with Gotcha Grab, the searing effect increases the damage of the Gotcha Grab by 100% per thing. So it doubles in damage, but it increases by 10 points every level. So now it does double the damage, and here does 50% more damage because it caps out at 30. But you could do this if you're fully heated. For fatal blow levels of damage. And of course, if you're feeling pretty risky, you could do that just to kind of get the same amount of damage. But where Gutbuster is not Gutbuster, where what's it called again? Where Lay Down is strongest is if Jax is in the corner and catches a Gotcha Grab. So get that, pepper some hits, get some heat, and now you're in the corner with Jax. Scary stuff. But then there's Get Out of My Face, which throws the opponent away like garbage. It doesn't do damage on its own, but you hit them against the wall, it does a little bit of damage and leaves Jax +4. So, +4 doesn't sound like a lot, but remember, with a character that could take away 1/3 of your health off of a single throw, and let's say does this, he's fully charged, say goodnight. It's gonna hurt a lot, guys. So be mindful of all of the options that Jax has off of Gotcha Grab, because he has a lot. Most of the time you'll see Jax players grab and just wallop on you because it does the most amount of damage, it does hits, but a smart Jax knows when to do this. Most of the time it's a safe bet just to keep walloping him. But the trade-off is, of course, knocking him back. But if a Jax player wants you in the corner, he'll get you in the corner. And you have no say in the matter. You are going into the corner for timeout, ma'am. And then, of course, if you manage to trap him, you get in the corner and take your punishment as you deserve it. And if he wants plus frames, pound you in, do this, go in, because you're +4, and ouch. So be extremely careful about Gotcha Grab, guys. It's not something you want to mess with. And then we'll just do heat again. We'll actually just do ground pound because that one doesn't require heat in the first place. So, stiff armed replaces Jax's classic super punch, which is in this string. It does decent damage and knocks the opponent back. But what's important is it has a crushing blow. If this counters or punishes an opponent with the second hit only, you get a crushing blow. And this is actually really nasty because there's a throw ender attached to it. So Jax's will often do this if they don't want to use Gotcha Grab. Because look at the corner carry and the fact that it still does a really, really, really nice amount of damage. But here's the trouble with that. Here's the trouble with that, mon amis. Remember, it's a high. And you can knock him back with that. And you can potentially get punishes off of this. It's not horribly unsafe, but it's one of those things you have to watch out for. Especially since, can it? Okay, yeah, you could whiff it on Amplify. So if you're not careful, you could be eating some serious trouble. Also, on block, this is -16. Oh, and by the way, Gotcha Grab is -17. So, horribly unsafe. And I don't think I never talked about flawless block gaps either. So, hold on a sec. Okay, so I'm just going to very quickly go through the strings just to kind of get them out of the way. There's a flawless block gap in there. No flawless block gap there. No flawless block gap there. No flawless block gap there. I'm just trying to find all the flawless block gaps so that I can talk about them. Okay, you can flawless block in between there, but it doesn't really change anything. Oh, I forgot about this string! What is it called? What is it called? Because you don't really get anything off of it, I don't think, unless it's equipped. Yeah, last chance. So this just leaves the opponent at +10 and does decent damage. Nothing to write home about, but there is no other ender off of this outside of a certain variation, which you just saw a hint of there. But it is -4 on block, and I'm pretty sure the flawless block data does not change for the normal hit. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, right. So Sleep Bitch has a lot of has 2 flawless block gaps in there, so be wary of that. And I think that covers all of the universal strings. Yes. Okay. Yes, it does. So now let's very quickly talk about flawless block gaps and stiff arm real quick, because there isn't one. But still, -16, and it's gonna suck if they flawless block, because then they can just get you off or potentially even launch you. Next, we have Thumper and Up Thumper. It's a mid projectile, 26 frames on startup, and not the greatest projectile in the game. It has an up variant that has theoretically more range than full screen, but you're going to use the Up Thumper for catching and jumping opponents. You can amplify this, but without heat, Jax is terrible at long range, because Look at that startup. That was almost a full second of startup. And look, it even missed because of the get up animation. And you can pepper it in too. So you could just do low, or you could do low high, or you could do high, then low. So there's a mix element. I say mix with air quotes because it's just a mix between whether you want to catch a jumping opponent, excuse my sister, or not. That's the basic idea. And then there's ground pound, which is a low. It's 36 frames, but it's still a full screen low, which can then be amplified to hit double low. But both of these are blockable. -8 at point blank range. And of course, you don't want to... Sure, it's +2 on the second one, but there's a jumpable gap in there so that you can punish jacks. So ground pound and thumper are technically ranged options, but I wouldn't think of them that way. Not exactly, anyway. They're the best he has, unless he heats up. Which leads me to heating up and heat missile. Now, heating up is exactly what I showed you earlier. This is what I use to get heated up. It takes 3 of these to reach level 1, and then 2 of them to reach level 2. So it's to reach maxed out. So it takes 5 of these normally, or you could just amplify once in order to get it to level 1, and then amplify it again to get it there right away. So it's 2 clacks instead of 5 clacks, regardless of how you heat yourself up. So you cross over into heat up. What do you get? Well, I already told you. Your punches do 10% more damage on block or otherwise. You get a throw crushing blow. You get a lot more damage off of throw type options. Because if I do a throw, first off, stiff armed only gets a 10% damage boost. But you don't lose the heat. You don't actually lose the heat from it because it doesn't require the arms being fully heated up. Both of Jax's crushing blows that require being heated up will lose the full heated charge in order to basically spend it for the crushing blow. But a throw is going to get a little extra treatment just because it's a throw, and I figure NetherRealm, and I think NetherRealm figures, hey, you're being held by what is essentially a hot poker. Of course, it's going to do more damage than just a quick jab with a hot poker. And they're right. Although personally, I would have liked it to be like damage over time as this was happening, so that if you were smart enough to delay your pound towns, you would maximize the damage. But here's the key: you get an 11 frame projectile. You get 4 of them actually, as you heat up. Takes about 2 hits to 1 charge. Generally equals 1 missile, but unless you're really quick with the inputs, you're generally going to get about 4. So so it's about 5 of these per charge, per impact of the heating up. Now these are 11 frames and do respectable damage. But the Amplify is unique, or relatively unique anyway. Mortal Kombat 11 used to have a system before launch where you would be able to, where if you wanted to amplify, you would have to press a specific button combination. So it could be, if I wanted to amplify stiff-armed, I would press grab because it's a throw. Or if I wanted to amplify death spin for Scorpion, I'd have to press 4 rapidly in order to get the death spin amplified. In theory. I don't know what they were because very early on in the dev things, I think by Combat Cast 2 for Mortal Kombat 11, they announced, yeah, we're making most, if not all, amplifies as a universal amplify button again, because people were not happy about that. I think it was kind of cool, but I understand scaling it back, because it depends on how intuitive it was, right? And with Heat Missile, it's pretty intuitive, because you just press the next button up from Heat Missile's back forward 3 to get the second missile. Just like that. It flows naturally. Now it doesn't cost... Now it's not like a true amplify because this thing does not... this thing does not require meter. It requires an extra heat charge. Heat Missile has a crushing blow, where if you land a combo of, I think it's 6 hits or greater, so like that, the second Heat Missile will crushing blow and you'll get good damage. In a certain variation, this gets stupid easy on the ground, so you, and I'll actually show you that little hint for what's coming. Look at that, 34% unbreakable. And you might think, oh, well, you just had it on, so it may not have been enough. And you did a jumping punch. Fair. Wrong, but you're wrong. It's really easy with that, but that requires an ability, which I think is in variation 3, so it might take us a little while to get there. But those are all of Jax's universal specials, which means time to talk abilities and thus tournament variations. First up, we have Duck and Weave, which replaces Stiff-Armed. So he loses a crushing blow for this stance. And what's special about this stance? Well, you get a free cancel out of it. And while it on its own is -3, I should probably also remember to set it to auto. And -15, it's free. So if the opponent's not expecting a cancel, you can actually cancel into Duck and Weave. And if they weren't expecting it maybe, or the connection's a bit funky, you can cancel it and then go for whatever option you wish. On its own, it just is a quick backhand. If you amplify it, which you have to amplify pretty quickly, you get a launcher. So netting respectable damage for no crushing blows, really, because while Jax's punches on their own don't really do that much damage, you can at least especially off of just 2-2 because of how it staggers. You can get combos off of it. And yeah, now you're in the corner, which is a bad time. But let's say Jax wants to side switch or mix you up. He has a low throw called Ragdoll. By the way, Duck and Weave on its own is -7, and the Amplify is -22. So if Jax is too eager and amplifies this by mistake, beat him for it. However, the low is -17. It's not a true throw, but it throws the opponent a considerable distance and, more importantly, side switches. So if Jax is on the wrong end of the corner, now he's on the right side of the corner without having to go for a gotcha grab. Which, remember, he could go, if he wants to, fake you out, and then all of a sudden you're in big, big trouble. And he doesn't normally have this option, but because he has another ability equipped, he can go for Ripped, which is a perfect segue into Ripped, which is a 29 frame overhead special move. So it's half as fast as this, but its benefit is you can amplify it pretty easily into a combo. It's -8 on Amplify, unlike the Amplifier for Duck and Weave, and that's the smart thing to do because you're -7. And you can kind of just use this to stagger the opponent back and thus at least keep yourself safe, because no character in Mortal Kombat 11 yet has an 8 frame move that punishes from this range, and thank God for that. I don't even think Spawn's Cape can reach that far. But Ripped is best used to extend combos, especially off of this, because remember, there's a low attached here, and it's the only real option that Jax has off of this. So you can go for this and potentially get a combo, or you can do this to fake him out and strike low, leaving you at +9. So people who want to watch out for Jax, be extremely careful, because then he can mix on top of this, because remember, Duck and Weave has a low and an overhead component because of the fact that Ripped is equipped. So I could go for this, delay it a little bit, because I might make you think I'm going for this, which can be blocked out of Duck and Weave, or I could just do... and of course, the thing is that it has a unique sound. And pro tip for those of you wanting to know how to react to overheads better, some overheads in recent NetherRealm games come with a sound cue. This kind of started with Supergirl in Mortal Kombat. Supergirl's not in Mortal Kombat. Thank God, Precious Kara. I do not want your face ripped off. But in the case of, but you have a sound cue that humans react quicker to sound than they do to visual cues. So while you might only react in 25 frames or so to something visually, I might have to make a video talking about this, but you could, if memory serves, react to something in as little as 19 frames if you have a sound cue to it. I think that's what it is. Don't quote me on this. But there you go. That is that's Ripped. A decent overhead launcher that comes with a sound cue, and if memory serves, has a flawless blockable gap in it, I think. Yeah, so no flawless block gap, but -7, so -17 and -17 still. Flawless block, -22 on amplify, and yeah, -7. So be wary, but Briggs Brigade is definitely a tool worth keeping an eye on. And then we have Briggs Brigade, which is a little bit of a slight problem because I don't think Jackie Briggs has a projectile in this variation. At least I don't think she does. Nope, she does not. But bear with me here. Briggs Brigade allows Jax to block a projectile, absorb all of its damage, and convert it into heat, meaning that he has an anti-zoning tool. So, with good timing against most projectiles, Sub-Zero can turn any projectile, even Sub-Zero's Ice Ball, into fuel for his deadliest attacks, which, as you know, involve the big boy fists. Which hurts a lot. Okay, let's talk about Hunker Down. This is probably the most common variation that you will see with Jax. Also, by the way, I apologize, but it looks like quad grab was rendered backwards, so keep an eye on the button log on the far left in order to see what quad grab's actual inputs are. But suffice it to say, it's quite a beast, that grab. But let's talk about Major Force, Standing Strong, and Get Some first. Because like this string and this string, they have the same ender. And that singular ender has a crushing blow. And this is the same crushing blow as his throw. So, at max heat, Major Force, Standing Strong, and Get Some will get that crushing blow. And this makes them incredibly scary because the second hit in all of these strings, overhead. Because of course they're overhead. A 16 frame overhead is unreactable. But here's the thing. Remember, Major Force and Standing Strong have a mix option. they have a 15 frame low. So this is basically unfuzzyable. The only way you're going to fuzzy this is if the opponent thinks that you're going to go for the overhead and you instead go for the ground pound, which don't do that. Just don't do that. But it's not fuzzyable if you go for the low or for the overhead version of both of these strings. Get Some is the safest option because it's 22 frames and the ground pound is 36 frames, so super easy to fuzzy. But again, both of these strings, if you guess wrong, you'll be eating a lot of damage. Hell, if you eat this raw first, you are eating 270. And here's the thing. That one punch, that one string built up 3 hits worth of heat. So if I turn Crushing Blow off, watch this. I think if I can get this right. Okay, no, I can't do it with that, I don't think. Okay. Please forgive my sister. Please forgive my sister, meester. Okay, so let's do a couple of heats up just to make this secure. Hold on. Oh, it's really hard to do, but you can totally combo into this. How about this? We're fully heated up. I'm just going to turn Easy Crushing Blows on just because of this. Boom! 43%! Oh my goodness. And of course, again, you get this to work. 42% for, again, 2 Crushing Blows, but you didn't need to risk the uppercut. This one was all Jax's. The connection might make this a little bit difficult, but trust me, man, this hurts. And hell, even if you want to just make it safe. Let's say I fully heated up before this, just so that we can get this going. %. That hurts. This whole thing just hurts a lot. And of course, scarier yet, look at how close Jax is. He can go for this again. Mix and yikes, scary stuff. Then we have Quad Grab, which is just a simple command grab. Only does 70 damage. So what gives? You have to press buttons. And it goes, after you press 1, you have to press 2. Then you have to press 4, and then you have to press 3. So it'll look like this. Remember, watch the button input on the far left here where Jax is. That will help you get an idea as to what the input is going to look like. Right. See? Even I mess it up every once in a while. Now, because this is one of those things that requires the extra buttons to expand, it requires meter and is kind of one of the last holdovers of press a certain button to get the amplify going. Now, here's the thing. This has a Crushing Blow, but it's a little bit tricky to get online. The Crushing Blow requirements are that you land every single hit before this at the last possible moment. So within a few frames of you losing your ability to amplify altogether. And you have to do that 3 times in a row. This is very similar to a brutality that Jax has, where in Mortal Kombat X, where you have to do the same sort of thing with a gotcha grab, but you have to do it 4 times in a row, and you have to press all 4 buttons at the same time with it. And the connection window for that last one, I think, is 2 frames. It's a 2-frame link, which is ridiculous. Which is why to this day, even 5 years later, I still haven't been able to get that brutality. Anyway, so that is that Crushing Blow. It rewards you with 350 damage without without getting heated up. And of course, if you heat it up, you get a little extra damage peppered in there just for good measure. And finally, there's a Burning Hammer, which has an air variant, which I did not tag, but I don't think you need to see that. Burning Hammer does exactly what you would expect. It's an air grab. Knocks the opponent down, and on Amplify, you get a little more damage. Quite a bit more damage on Amplify, to be fair, but you have to kind of... It's a little tricky to do the air version. But I'm just gonna make Jackie jump. Actually, I forgot. Both of these enders are also, because of course they are, safe on block. And on flawless block, I don't think there's a gap, nor does their frame data change. Oh, there's a flawless block gap in there, so never mind. Is it on all of them? Presumably. Yeah, so it is the same thing. It is the same sort of deal. Everything else is unblockable, so I'm not going to bother and just go into jump. So, there's no crushing blow attached to this, but it does do the same damage as a Netherrealm throw pre-Mortal Kombat 11. You're probably going to mostly see this as an ender in certain things, like this. Just to close out a round, but it's not a bad ender at all. Now we gotta talk about Variation 3, which is probably my favorite, even though it gets rid of one of Jax's favorite moves. And this one, I remember now, is the only one that has a armor break. So, that's the partial. Here's the alternate ender. That's why I'm tagging this separate from this thing, and then this thing, and close, far, and very far counterparts. Okay, so right to bare arms. This is what you saw earlier when I did the grounded missile crushing blow, because there's a lot of hits here, and the full thing only gets you to level 1, but then you can, I forgot, because it can't do gotcha grab, you can add stuff to it to make it do more hits. So, let's say, now I'm fully charged if I really wanted to do that. I wouldn't, but yeah. And then Armed and Dangerous adds a high ender, which does a little more damage, but it's a high ender. But the thing is, auto block, this should stay. Anyway, the overhead is -11, but the high is +4. So you're trading the risk of getting uppercutted for being safe if you're a Jax main. And if you are fighting a Jax, you're trading the risk of getting mollywopped for a chance at an uppercut punish. Because, you know, that's necessary. Then there's Lethal Clap. This breaks armor. And this is the only move that Jax has that breaks armor, which means this is the only variation that Jax has that breaks armor. A little silly, but you can use the clap. And then that leaves them restanding. Or, if you have at least level 1, you can knock them back. But, here's the cool thing. Let's say you have them airborne. You can actually get them airborne in the corner and continue combos this way. So, for instance, let's say I have Jackie in the corner, and I do this. I have the potential, because of the 7-frame ender, which I'm actually just going to put her in the corner for, to continue a combo. I have to amplify it. Of course I have to amplify it first, silly me. Okay, so it might not work off of a normal level 1 Amplify. But you know where it will work for sure? Breakaway. See that? I got a full combo off of that because Jackie was scared and broke away in the wrong variation. Let's say then, I do this and amplify. You get, I did that too early. I actually did that too early. I even had enough time to uppercut. So that is what Lethal Clap is really good for, especially in the corner. Breaking armor and continuing combos just to punish the opponent for breaking away. And the thing is, the nice thing is that it's 70 on its own, but if I amplify, it does 90 damage. It's pretty decent on its own as well as an ender. And again, if your opponent is high enough and you do the amplify, you can combo it, but it's much easier if you catch somebody on a breakaway with it. Now let's talk... Hello, kitty. Let's talk Ground Shatter. This is a low, which on amplify becomes an unblockable full screen. So the slowness is made up for by the ouchness, because you're not blocking this. You could jump this, but suppose that Jax launches you. He gets a combo off of this, especially off of the closed version. And that's scary because you might think to break away. But with how high you are, this perfectly complements Lethal Clap. Because then, oh no, you got launched for a combo. And evidently, there is 4 ranges. We have close, mid, far, and very far. The last thing we have to talk about is his Fatal Blow, Honorable Discharge, which is insane. To this day, people still aren't quite sure how the hell this thing is supposed to be blocked. Well, I'll tell you. First off, watch this. 11 frames, active for 11 frames, doesn't quite reach full screen, thank Christ, but still really far away. Like, if I dashed in from full screen, I'm willing to bet I can catch you with this. Just about. So, it's a jump in from full screen, and then I could clobber you with this. And if I clobber you with this, you get 2 issues. 1, you get to eat a lot of damage. You get to eat a lot of damage. You get to eat Fatal Blow damage. And look, I'm fully heated, which means if I didn't use this crushing blow yet, in 2 inputs, maybe 3 at a push, if you're willing to count movement inputs, in 2 button presses, because one of them is simultaneous, you gotta understand, you're 2/3 of the way to dead. That is part of the reason why this Honorable Discharge is so freaking stupid. But of course, the other thing too is it's 11 frames. It's one of the fastest, if not the fastest, Fatal Blow in the game. And it is far-reaching. And here's the kicker. Before I believe the Nightwolf patch, hold on to your hats, folks. This thing used to be mid. So you couldn't neutral duck this thing. But how was I able to neutral duck it now? That's because they were smart and changed it into a high after the Nightwolf patch. Still, this thing is one of the best Fatal Blows in the game, bar none. Especially if you can get it into a combo, which Ringer is uniquely suited for because of the clap and the right to bear arm strength. Look at that, 45%. It's good. It's very difficult to get a Fatal Blow combo with Jax that does much more damage than this. So, hopefully this helps you guys understand Jax a little more and hopefully gets you to pick up my favorite Special Forces character by quite a ways. So, don't forget to be awesome, my friends, and I'll see you guys on the other side.